I want to switch a bit. When the people you're working or leading with, they start shifting away from the values that you stand for, how have you handled this situation?
I think one of the things you do if you find you're not on the same page, you try to engage, but if it becomes completely impossible and it is a situation that I deeply feel about is a matter of conscience, I'll remain where I am, irrespective of what I lose. I think I owe it to myself to be true to myself first. If I'm true to myself, I'll also be true to you. Yeah.
How do you separate personal differences from professional collaborations when working towards a common goal?
I think I've been able, without much effort, to work even with people I deeply disagree with on issues of common, where you can gather common purpose on a single or two issues for the common good of the country. Yeah. And that has happened a lot in the course of my work.
Could you give us an example of?
An example is William Ruto.
Well, I knew it was coming.
We've collaborated in Parliament. He's not the only one. I could also say during the Moi era, us coming together in IPPG, you see? You do not like what they and their party represent as KANU, but you separate that. If now we have agreed to do this and you can see they are serious, you get on with it because at the end of the day, it will help the country. And I believe without IPPG, we would not have been able to even have the Kibaki regime in 2002. It's being able to traverse the country, being able to get coverage, removing the offenses of sedition, removing powers from the chief. All those are the things, the building blocks that led us to the 2002, what shall I say, ballot revolution. So it is possible to work for a common purpose. And you may be shocked to know that chini ya maji, we again collaborated with Ruto on opposing BBI. But I was very clear that collaboration will be strictly limited to the question of BBI. So when later they sought collaboration beyond, my final answer was, in good faith, I cannot work with you. What they were thinking, working towards securing power, because then you know how that power is going to be used. It is not a must that I be in office. What is a must is that Kenya must get good leadership. So we must keep trying until that time as we can get the leadership the country deserves. Leadership that can take the country forward. For me, being in office is not a matter of life and death. Yeah.
I want to go back to one of the questions that I asked, and just because of saying being in office is not a matter of life and death, you resigned during the Kibaki era.
Yes, I did.
And that was, first and foremost, you were fired, in an essence, because of when Kibaki dissolved cabinet, and it caught you on the golf course. But also, you came back, and you this time stepped down. Let's talk about that. Kibaki is somebody who you supported for years. By the time you're stepping down, what has changed? What has shifted? What has led you to that point where you're like, you know what? We can no longer work together?
Just noticing, I'd noticed you don't just wake up one morning and resign. It's a series of things. And it started towards the end of 2008. You see things shifting. You question. You are given unsatisfactory answers, and the slide continues. My Ministry of Justice had 3 main mandates. administration of justice, which is about rule of law, human rights, governance. Those were my 3 main mandates. So we were clashing on human rights. You know, the many extrajudicial killings, especially of Mungiki, you are voicing it, it's not being taken into account in the way you expect. Then UN Human Rights sends a rapporteur to examine that situation. That was in 2008, both on the extrajudicial killings during the post-election violence and now the stepped-up killings of the Mungiki. And a statement is issued castigating him by good old Mutoa, who was the government spokesman, now a CS. He's overstepping. It's my mandate. This is not a government spokesman issue. It's a human rights issue. So I have to issue a statement to contradict him, but with the knowledge of the president. Then comes matters of corruption. Corruption is creeping back during the Grand Coalition. It's not being checked. And as a minister, I cannot stop a fellow minister. We all are under the president. So I'm talking to him, not much is happening. Administration of justice, they start appointing judges. I'm being called to a ceremony for the swearing in, and I have not been involved. I'm not in the Judicial Service Commission, but I would expect the president to have drawn my attention that these are the names so that I can whisper in his ear. And they're bringing in the very names that I had advised him to reject in 2006. They have now come back in 2009. And I say, hell no, I'm gone. And I decide I'm going to resign, and I did. Because if there's nothing, all my 3 mandates have been interfered with. What am I doing then? Receiving pay for work not done. I decided, let me go back to the backbench. Those days, you remember, cabinet ministers were from parliament. Let me go back to the backbench, literally with half pay. I'll manage. That's what I did.
Whoa. You know, I get the sense that you're deeply loyal, maybe even sometimes to a fault. Huh? As a leader, how have you dealt with situations where you started your journey with others, but along the way, they crossed you? They turned their backs on you. People who you've been loyal with. How have you been able to overcome that? If you have been able to overcome that, explain to me betrayal.
I think that betrayal is part of life, because you have situations where you feel betrayed. Sometimes it could be a family member. It could be a business associate, a professional colleague. It could be in personal relations. Betrayal is a recurring theme. If it's a friend, I just cross you as a friend. But life continues. So if I relate with you, it's like with anybody else, you know? Like you relate to so many people who are not necessarily your friends. So I've been able to overcome. Once I make a decision what to do about a situation, nothing else worries me in my mind. The only worry, the only thing that lingers and can be nagging in my mind is if I have not found a solution. Once I decide what I'm doing about a matter, it ceases to be an issue. Once I decided I'm resigning, I was no longer bothered about what else they do. I can deal with it from the opposition benches. But it stopped weighing on my heart. I think remaining, it would have literally killed me. Yeah. When you reach a place where it affects your entire system. Like that morning, I resigned, some friends came to stage a sit-in in my office to obstruct me from writing my resignation letter, from being able to move. I actually resigned verbally to the press because people were sitting in my office. But when it affected me to the extent that my stomach started running. I knew it's time to act. I just left them there, told them, excuse me, just a minute. Went to the 14th floor. We were on the 15th floor. I went to the 14th where the press conference was, resigned, and I came and told them, guys, get out of the office. It's no longer my office. I've done it. And went away to golf, with a clear mind now that it's done. And it's like a load off you. What disturbs me is when I have not decided the next step. Once I do that, I can live with the situation. Yeah.
Whoa. It's lonely at the top. Or so they say. Those who know, know. If you know, you know. Those who've made it to the top. So, I've heard you mention golf. I want to hear more about your social life, Martha. We see this Martha who's at the top, fighting. But I've also seen the one who I cracked jokes with. In fact, seeing you laugh, I was like, yeah, Martha has this other side to her. And you're human. Are you able to make friends? What's your social life? Explain to me this other side of Martha that people may not see. Because you're a human just like each and every single person in this room.
I think we all are different in different settings. The you I'm seeing here today would not be the you in a funeral of a loved one, whether a friend or a family member. It would not be the you in a wedding ceremony where you are welcoming, or a birthday party where you are singing happy birthday. You'll be in a different mode. Now, in politics, our public life, what gets shown to the public is what the media wants you to see. If they're showing you the side of hard tackles only, that's the only part you will know of me. That is why my constituents, who knew me better, kept re-electing me and elected me for consecutive times because they knew the many parts of me. They knew I'm capable of being heard when it's required. They knew I have a listening ear when it is required. They knew I'll have empathy when it is required. They knew the many sides of me. And there's no human being who doesn't have their many sides. Remember, we had this view of Moi. Moi was a father and a grandfather. And I'm sure his children, his grandchildren loved him just the way ours love us. And I got later to know him as a friend after he had retired. And he was just a regular guy. We developed a friendship when Kibaki used to send me to Cabernet Gardens to brief him during the post-election violence. So everybody has those sides, Yeah, so I'm just like everybody else. Yeah.
You've mentioned post-election violence, and that's an elephant in the room that comes to play, especially when the name Martha Karua is called on. Yeah. One of the reasons why I love you is that I can ask you tough questions. Because you're honest. The way that you answer your questions is so vulnerable, honest, real.